Mr. Collins, do you have a development update for us?
Yes, sir, I do. With all the excitement that I felt from the last development update, we just going to kind of continue the same type of information we shared with you. A lot of different sources of information come across our desk, as does yours, I'm sure, and we actually try to take a little time to read through some of the journals and whatnot that provide economic development updates and commercial and residential activity. One such was a snippet that Dallas Business Journal does on an annual basis regarding the largest women-owned businesses in all of Dallas-Fort Worth. And when they started doing this a couple of years ago, Kelly Roberts at Ricochet was in the top 20 and then crept up into the top 10 just 2 years ago. And now she's at number 6. They've had a really, really good year if you talk with her, and that's one thing that is fueling so bad her future expansion plans. I should take that back. That was so bad. Anyway, she's a really good corporate citizen for our community. A lot of new information is coming out from the analysis of the 2010 census. You'd think so by the end of 2013. DFW is considered to be the 4th largest metropolitan statistical area in the country. As part of that, DFW also happens to be the 2nd hottest market for multifamily development in the state of Texas, behind only Houston. As crazy as the numbers are for positive economic indicators in Dallas-Fort Worth, Houston, with what's going on in the energy sector, it's just absolutely just crazy busy. So the growth in the multifamily is obviously due to the significant job growth that is experienced throughout the state of Texas, and virtually all of the metro areas but San Antonio, they've got positive job growth in excess of 3%. And I don't know where I've been. I've not heard this term referring to the age category of 18 to 30 or 18 to 34 called millennials is what they're called. But part of what's driving the multifamily market, as opposed to first-time home buyers that might be just entering the job market and the housing market, is they were born during the recession, and they're coming out of that with perhaps not as strong job prospects as they may have wanted, and they tend to be very, very frugal with the money that they've got, and they're not willing to buy homes, so they're looking really towards multifamily. What we've wanted to attract, if you're going to have any type of multifamily, particularly in our community with the concentration that we do have here, is if that urban loft is built within that live, work, play, or mixed-use context. That's the most desirable. And if there's any cautionary flag that's out there about the continued sustainability of the multifamily sector itself, it's just a question about, as you get higher quality development, you got to pay higher rent to help pay for that. And while we've got some really, really positive job growth, the wage growth is not following suit necessarily with that job growth. So the caution is, will that multifamily at that quality level that all of the communities are pushing for be sustainable if you don't have that wage growth?
May I interject on the side? The millennials that he's talking about, I happened to be in the hospital a little while ago, and I got to know some of the nurses really well. And
Are you ready?
it's kind of nice. But there was one young lady who, as we talked, I asked her where she lived. She said she lived in Euless. And as we talked further, I found that she and her sister had both moved to Euless, separate couple apartments, I guess. And the reason that they moved to Euless was the dog park. I promise that was the incentive for her to move to Euless.
I've heard that.
Us millennials like that.
Mr. Porterfield, I failed to mention that, so you're exactly right, they're looking for those pet accommodations.
But whose idea was that?
Whose idea was what?
The dog park.
Ray McDonald, of course.
Can't take credit for that one.
Oh, man. You heard that too, Mary?
Yes, I have. I have a friend that I see every year annually at a party. She keeps saying, you know I love that dog park, you know I do, and I didn't bet them. I said, yes, you tell me that every time I see you.
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it.
You don't go to the same place as I do.
I don't. That's true.
Being the fourth largest MSA, you'd expect for the retail inventory, of course, would be very, very strong. The numbers continue to be very, very positive for the retail centers with 25,000 square feet or more, approaching over 90%. The retail occupancy that's kind of driving those higher occupancies are being backfilled by companies that we've all heard and probably shop at ourselves, including Belk, Nordstrom, Sprouts, Walmart Neighborhood Market, Office Depot, and Whole Foods are the folks that are really driving that. Interesting when we start talking to potential end users in the 121 corridor, we're not an island. We depend on shoppers from other areas to come support the retail development in the 121 corridor. And as the population growth continues to move up in that Alliance corridor, that's being reflected in the amount of new retail development that's being constructed up there. Of the 1.5 million square feet of new retail in DFW, you've got, that's an increase from the 1.2 million that you saw in 2012. In contrast of that 1.5 million, the entire Northeast Mall is 1.8 million, which is what the second largest regional mall in all of DFW is. That's a lot of square footage that's being added. And specific to that Alliance corridor, of that 1.5 million square feet being added, almost 300,000 is going just in that Alliance town center. And again, to relate that to the 121 corridor, we know there are folks that are traveling east from our neighboring communities to shop in that 121 corridor, and they're being provided another option as continued retail development occurs in that North 35W corridor and up including into Alliance. Retailers and developers continue to be a little bit cautious with pulling the plug on the new development. But when you read enough about the positive economic indicators that really create the multiplier effects that are driving the economy, the numbers about the industrial real estate market are so positive. Historic lows at less than 8%. Spec buildings being built in different parts of the Metroplex, and with all of that, that means that the manufacturers are building stuff, and that stuff that's being manufactured has got to be distributed all over the country and stored in warehouses and then distributed more locally and regionally. So there's a lot of optimism that because of those types of figures in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that the growth will sustain. That's it, Mr. McKinney.
A couple of local updates. The plans for the expansion of Rio Grande, the bridge and all that, will be turned in tomorrow. Getting that, there'll be an item on your agenda in October to authorize us to proceed with bidding. The developer will have great funds. Remember, we're using their money to do that. And to start off, you ain't no way. It's more than one line, all the details, places and places and stuff like that. But I hope in the relatively near future to give you much better updates on the larger box. Communications with those folks, and they're very encouraged. I visited with a couple of restaurants and looked for great things out there pretty quickly. I think the construction of the road will really make that take off and people see that as a reality.
Especially that bridge, everybody's fancy
Yeah.
about the bridge.
Yep. And the commitment continues, the design that they'll turn in is I couldn't tell you it's the exact same bridge, but it's the bridge concept that has been in the plan development from the beginning. Any questions on anything development related? We had told y'all at our last meeting, we talked with you about the Tarrant Appraisal District Board of Directors, and one of you had suggested we talk about dialogue. That has been done, and John is willing to put his name in the nomination. So if that is all right, we can call, and we would that would be on your next agenda, I believe, to submit his name. Now, John's been told this, y'all need to clearly understand, we've got a very small part in that, less than 1%. So it will submit his name, but it's the odds of that happening. One thing we're sure of, if we don't submit his name, they'll never be considered. So that's, unless y'all want to do something else, that's the name we'll put in a, I think it has to be a form of resolution.
Good move.
Got to the next agenda. All right, and then sign ordinance. Kim is going to talk with you about this as a result of the legislation from our last legislative session.
Yes, as we talked about at the retreat held in August, we did talk about the recent legislative action, the passage of House Bill 259, which restricts the ability for us to regulate electioneering at our polling location. And currently our library is serving as our polling site. What the bill did do is there was not a definition included in the election code regarding electioneering, so it does now include the posting, use, mainly the posting, but also use or distribution of political signs or literature at the polling site. As you recall, we did not permit political signs on city-owned property at all. So House Bill 259 does allow the council to establish reasonable regulations regarding time, place, and manner. So what we're bringing forward today is a proposal to amend our sign code ordinance to include reasonable regulations regarding that time, place, and manner. Mostly what I'm suggesting is based on what we've seen occur at our polling locations in the past and what seems reasonable with regards to the signs being out there. So regarding time, we're asking that the signs be removed within 24 hours after the close of polls, which basically means that during the early voting period, the signs would be able to go out at 7 a.m. or actually 8 a.m. So the early voting actually starts on that first day, and then would have to be removed within 24 hours of the last day of early voting. And then they could be placed back out on election day and removed 24 hours after the close of polls. Regarding place, posting, use, or distribution is permitted in the designated area as approved by the city council. And we'll also be bringing forward a map, and I'll show that to you in just a little bit on what we have in mind for that. On the manner, mainly we were concerned about damage to our underground utilities, irrigation lines, and whatever else we've got under there. So we thought it would be prudent to establish a maximum size for our sign. Looking around and also doing some research with the companies that actually make your political signs, 2 by 3 or 6 square feet seems to be reasonable. And I didn't bring my H-frame stake actually, but you're very familiar with those. That's what you're using to actually support that sign. And the sign manufacturers recommend that to hold a 2 by 3 sign that it be a 9 gauge in diameter. And so we would like to place that restriction on it because we feel like that would not damage any of our underground utilities if that went into the ground. So there any questions on time, place, or manner that we're recommending? As far as the designated area, we would recommend that it be placed within the boundaries as identified there on that map. The restrictions of closer than 10 feet from the edge of the street pavement or within a designated easement or right of way would still apply. So there you've got Shepherd Drive and the frontage road down there, and also on Trojan Trail. Still have to adhere to those regulations with not putting signs in there. We would bring two items forward to you, one being the ordinance that actually amends the sign code, and then also this diagram designating the area where the signs could be placed, and they'd be taken under separate action items.
What's the bullseye down there for?
Oh, that's just one panel.
Oh, okay.
It's just a print screen.
Free speech area.
Yeah. That's showing my beautiful garden area outside my office. With,
Is the blue where you can place them?
anywhere within the blue boundaries.
Oh, within the blue boundary?
Right. We'll be able to do that. You
And
still have,
there's no magic to that. That's, and every business and staff recommendation run through the attorney's office. But if y'all can't restrict it too much, it can still be reasonable. But if you want to broaden it or want to do something else, I mean, nothing magical, that is just what we thought would be the easiest to enforce, in that it's the eastern boundary of Shepherd, the western boundary of this fine road, and then obviously the southern north boundaries of Trojan.
And it keeps it off the city.
But this median would not be included.
Right. And our only recommendation was that the city council approve boundaries where this is allowed, and that may entail, if you approve something like this, we run into problems. We attempt it, it doesn't work, we have other problems, and we bring it back to you, we modify where signs are allowed for a logical reason.
The only change I would recommend, and it's only my preference, I think you ought to include this median right here. There's no, why not? Go, those are one-way deals, just go all the way out to Hector and then back.
I think what we've got there, that's the polling place, it makes, again, in my opinion, it makes no sense to add this section here because that's not the polling place. The polling place is the library. The entire library footprint is part of it. If you extend it to here, well, then we should extend it to the parks and everybody. I'd rather just keep it right where it is.
I agree.
Okay, this is one of those things that obviously when we bring the ordinance, how does this adopt by resolution?
this will just be by minute order.
Amend the ordinance. Y'all can amend it or direct us to amend it. We'll sure how to do it, but somehow or another, if there are amendments that y'all want to consider at that time of adding that or not, then we can do that at that night. I don't really have a strong opinion. It doesn't. What was important to us was, number one, to follow the law, but secondly, to protect our facilities. We have underground fiber optic lines that tie all of our buildings together. T-posts is very
And they're not very deep, you get the fiber optics.
the fiber optics, we got some really shallow fiber optics. Well, you should, but in the years, it's just what it is. But and the reason we're being so specific, Kim's done a really good job of researching this, but that 9-gauge AWG, that is specific from the sign providers, and it's what you would just normally use. We will have examples, you have examples of it, so it will support that too through the sign. Our concern is not so much our local elections, because I think from our standpoint, our candidate orientation that we did last year
Yeah.
worked very, very well. sign. We will do everything we can to make people aware of this in other elections, for like primaries, where you have so many candidates that are countywide office.
And they're just hiring people to go out and stick things in
Yeah,
there.
it's much more difficult to control, but.
I would also suggest that we do whatever has to be done to get a dig test out there and actually locate exactly where our things are and either flag them or whatever just before signs go up. And then that might protect us a little bit.
We're not really concerned with these, we're going H funds or, yeah, they're not going to hurt us. We're pretty comfortable with that.
What
That's
about the
concern.
electric on the students, do we have anything to do with that as far as signs? No.
This particular bill just addresses, property that, city property that is used as a polling location. Certainly the school district, sure, takes action. But again, we're eliminating the Bear Creek site from one of our polling signs. We did brief the Planning and Zoning Commission on this at their last meeting because it is an amendment to our UDC. They do have to hold a public hearing and then that will go before them on October 1st and come to the council on October 8th.
No, they're not considering the map.
They are not considering
That's
that.
just the ordinance.
Just the ordinance, yes, sir.
So there's nothing to be done that y'all could tweak when we got here, so. And that, would that be the second meeting in October?